commonly used during a structure fire. That's kind of what I'll be focusing my presentation on, is just the operations and procedures that firefighters go through when they get that call for any kind of fire, whether it's commercial, residential, or even a dumpster fire. It all ranges, it's all dynamic. So this is a Halligan. This is one of the most commonly used forcible entry tools. You have your forks, your adz end, and your pike. These haven't even been issued yet. This is the really new one, so you can pass that around if you want.
Don't break it.
I've also got one of the older ones. This is called a gated Y. You would hook this up to a larger diameter hose as a supply line, and you can run 2 attack lines off of it if you're in a situation where you need multiple attack lines as well. Standard nozzle goes to 1.5 coupling. So pass that around. And then hydrant wrench. This little hook on the end, it's called a spanner. So if you're cleaning up from a fire and you have 2 couplings that are stuck together really, really tightly, you can't get them undone with your hands, and you can kind of hook it in, turn it, get it undone. So before I even talk about structure fires, call statistics with firefighters is really important. Like Kira said, more than 80% of calls that firefighters respond to are medical aids. Medical aids range anything from public assistance calls, so what you see a lot is like trapped animals, deer stuck in a fence is a good one, cat on a roof, ducklings in the drainage pipe, old lady sitting down on the toilet, fell over, now she can't stand up, she needs help getting up. All the way up to advanced life support, whether doing CPR, shocking somebody with an AED, even drug administration. The majority of firefighters are paramedics as well, and if they're not a paramedic, they're usually an EMT. So it's really important to be medically educated as a firefighter, because even with the stats down here, this is national for 2017. This is all the medical aid responses, over 22 million, and that's fire incidents. 1.3 million, so big difference. Another medical response that firefighters get more specifically than anybody is vehicle accidents, especially in regards to if they have an extrication involved. So if you have a rolled car, somebody's trapped in that car, the paramedic or ambulance is not going to have the tools necessary to extricate that person. So most likely a truck company will come and they'll have stabilization, extrication equipment. A lot of good tool utilization in this picture. So you have, these are called rescue 42s. They can hold thousands of pounds. These little, I don't know if you can see that or not. So these are called chocks or cribbing. Just another same principle as like a wheel chock. You just stick it under something and it'll hold it in place. And then you have hydraulic tools. So you have the hydraulic spreaders, the cutters, anything that they need to do to get that person out of that vehicle safely and transported to the hospital. So a lot of the aspects of structured fire, although they try to follow a certain order of protocols during structured fire, a lot of it is dynamic. So being a higher rank in the fire service really means that you have to kind of make decisions based on your situation. So you have to base your decisions and the calls you make off of the fire conditions, any potential victims inside. It's all dynamic, so it all kind of coincides with each other. So this is kind of the go-to protocol acronym that firefighters follow in response to a structure fire. RECOVS. First one's rescue. Obviously, if they have a structure fire, they show up on scene, and somebody says, "Hey, there's people trapped inside that building." The fire instantly becomes not the priority. Their number one, first and foremost priority is making sure that everybody's out of that building safely before they even focus on attacking and extinguishing the fire. Once they've established that all rescues have been made, their primary search is done, they made sure that that building is clear of all potential victims, and they'll go to exposures, which also goes really closely with confinement. This is a good picture to show, because you can see these two buildings are really close together. So it doesn't matter how quickly they can put out the source of the fire here in the middle. As soon as they put that out, that other building has already had so much direct flame contact and heat transfer that you already have extensive damage to surrounding buildings. So they're going to focus on protecting that building before they actually focus on extinguishing the fire. And then confinement, here's another good picture. You see that this firefighter has a hose line right in between these two buildings. Even though there's not fire visible, that smoke is really hot. That thick smoke carries a lot of heat because it's so close to ignition temperature. So he's spraying that hose line in between those two buildings to make sure that the heat transfer in between is staying at a low enough temperature where it's not going to damage the other building. So once they've confined it, the fire's contained, it's not going anywhere. That's when they can focus on extinguishment. That's when you'll see more hose lines pulled towards the fire in order to attack the source of it. Once the fire has been completely extinguished to the immediate eye, that's when they go to the overhaul stage. The overhaul stage is basically just making sure that the fire is completely out. So say you have a kitchen fire, something catches fire on the stove and chars the ceiling and then burns the wall behind it. Once they extinguish all that fire, they'll tear down the ceiling and they'll tear down the wall behind it to make sure that there's no extra heat transfers, any embers sitting in the wall or the attic. That's really common to see additional fire in an attic after a small first floor fire. So I like to think that VS stands for ventilation and salvage. I like to think those are separated from recio because these are the most dynamic out of all of these up top. These ones are usually followed pretty chronologically. Excuse me. So there's 4 kinds of ventilation. There's vertical and horizontal, and then there's positive pressure and hydraulic. Usually these 2 kinds of ventilation will be more up towards exposure and confinement, usually. And they're usually done by a second or third in crew, so that's when the truck company will come in and they'll lay down. Basically, the truck company's job is to lay down the red carpet for the engine companies to get in and extinguish the fire. So they'll get up on the roof and they'll cut holes in the roof. When they release that, not only does it make it easier for any crews inside to see, because all the smoke is being released to the top, but that smoke is really, really hot. So when it goes up out of the building, the temperature inside the structure rapidly decreases. Positive pressure and hydraulic are done more after the fire has been extinguished. That's just kind of clean the building out so the overhaul stage can go more smoothly. Positive pressure, it's just a big gas-powered fan that they'll put at the front door. It'll take all the clean air, push it into the building, which pushes out all the rest, other carcinogens and smoke in the air. Same principle with hydraulic. Salvage, once again, usually done by a second or third in company, usually a truck company. They're going to go in and try to preserve as much of the homeowner's personal items as they can. So that's a picture. It looks like that guy's probably got some furniture covered up. They'll also have the big, those are called salvage covers, really thick canvas material that's fireproof. They also have these things called big easies, same as a salvage cover, it's just smaller and it's got handles on it so you can put smaller items in the middle of it and carry it out. Next slide. Okay, so I'll just talk about the physical differences between an engine and a truck. The engine, like I said, is going to be your main extinguishment attack. So they're going to be the ones, they have 600 to 800 gallon tanks on them. They have the big centrifugal force pump on them that'll pump all the water out to the hose lines. Usually 1,500 to 2,000 feet of hose on them. And they do carry some forcible entry and rescue equipment. So they carry a couple ladders towards the back of the engine in this compartment. And usually in the jump seat where the firefighter sits, they'll have like a Halligan and then a flathead axe in case they need a force entry for a rescue, because usually they're the first on scene. So if they have a rescue, that's their first priority. Truck company isn't going to have any of the water tank or the pump, and usually no hose. They might have like a high-rise pack, but they're going to be the ones that have a much larger variety of any kind of ventilation, extrication, or rescue equipment. So they'll be the ones that'll carry all the extrication for vehicle accidents. So all the hydraulic tools, all the stabilization stuff. They have a larger variety of ground ladders that are larger and smaller in size, as well as most trucks have the aerial ladder on it, usually about 100 to 115 feet long. And it has it's called a deck monitor. It's the big water nozzle on the end of it that they can hook up to one inlet without a pump and just flow water right up to the top. So you have your different kinds of engines and different kinds of trucks. This is a tiller truck. These are the kind of the big bad ones. They've got 2 steering wheels in them. So they've got one in the front and they got one in the back. Just makes for easier maneuverability through smaller areas. Really helpful in city areas. Then you have single stick trucks in the bottom right. Those ones don't have the extra steering in the back. It's just single all the way through, and it's usually a little bit shorter, same length aerial ladder. You also have special operations trucks. So this is a hazmat rig. So they cover any kind of hazardous material, chemical agents, spills, anything like that. You have heavy rescue trucks. Primary focus is going to be rescue and sometimes medical. Your different engines consist of water tenders. This is a Type 3 brush rig. So primarily wildland, carries a lot more of the wildland tools than a normal engine would. They got a little bit of a smaller tank and a pump with smaller diameter hose on it, because during a wildland fire you're not going to need a very high flow rate of water. Water tenders usually don't carry all the structure fire hand tools. They're just more focused on supplying an engine company with water. So they have a tank that's usually 2 to 3 times bigger, so up to 2,000 to 2,200 gallons. And they have a pump on it as well to pump it to other engines. And you have your odd vehicles. Medics are almost always going to be on the scene of a structure fire, because you guys don't really, or the firefighters on scene don't really know whether somebody says it or not if there's victims in that building. So those medics have to be ready to go on standby in case there is. And then this is your battalion car. The battalion chief's going to usually drive that up, and he'll run incident command out of his driver's seat. Talk to all the firefighters responding and give them tasks. So, next slide. This is just kind of some of the tools. So just with the turnouts and the SCBA, just the weight of what is on your body is usually 70 to 75 pounds. That's not including anything that you're holding, anything that you're walking around with, transporting. Most firefighters on scene, almost all of them, will be carrying the irons, which is a Halligan and a flathead axe. A lot of them might be carrying a hose bundle or a high-rise pack. Any truck firefighter is going to be going up to the roof with a rotary saw and or a chainsaw, as well as a rubber shifter and pipe pole. And then you have Randall's, I don't know, if you have somebody trapped in the building, or a potential victim that's unresponsive, a lot of times that person might be overweight, and you gotta carry all your tools at the same time, get that person out of there. It's not always the easiest thing to do. So, that's it. Yeah, we don't have to watch it, but I've got more interesting videos on the next slide.
Which one here would you want to show?
Okay, cool. So, you guys click on the first video if you'd like. So, this is vertical ventilation. It's a POV of a truck captain who's responding to a peaceful fire. You can see, you can't really see it. He's up on the roof of the firefighter. You guys really see it better than and that firefighter will cut that hole and he'll punch it through with a rubbish hook. You guys can see as soon as that smoke gets an oxygen supply, it immediately ignites. So what he's doing is rolling the rafters. He's pulling the chainsaw up when he goes over the rafters. As soon as it contacts oxygen. You see the captain here in a second, they'll reach down, and he has to punch through the attic, the ceiling of the structure as well, rather than just, so you can see he's reaching all the way down past the roof into the attic floor. That's pretty much it. We'll have to watch a part of this one as well.
This one?
Yeah, sure. Just like 30 seconds of it. So.
Unit audio medic engine 223 on 870. Do you want a command? Single story, single
smoke coming out of the building, non-visible fire, and then reporting party saying there's somebody in the building. So you guys will see as soon as he goes in, it's not like the movie. You can't see anything. You couldn't see your hand in front of you if you were wiggling around. Like, that smoke is so thick, and as soon as it gets all over you, gets in your mask, it's all by feel at that point.
Can somebody turn the lights on?
Turn all lights.
On.
Off.
They kind of narrate what they're doing. You'll see them talk. You'll see his buddy's name. He'll yell his buddy's name, and he'll say, "Here, grab his food." Like I said, he's standing maybe 2 feet from the front door, and that's that light source. The smoke is so thick you can't see anything. There's the source of the fire. This firefighter's probably carrying 2 or 3 tools with him. That's probably why he's asking for some assistance to get this guy out of the building. So that's basic idea of that video. And that last one's just kind of a cool video. If you skip to 440. This is a POV from a battalion car. He's running incident command. You can hear him making radio traffic calls to the units on the scene. And you'll see right
You
here,
don't need both companies.
radio traffic
Check
with
out the
victims coming out.
pressure for me. I just want to make sure we get this opened up.
And you'll see a firefighter run out with a kid over his shoulder, and he's just booking it across the street.
We got a victim right there now, right there.
This is another good reason why
We got a
firefighters
victim on the command post side.
usually 1 or 2 firefighters will ride with the ambulance company to the hospital because they need an extra hand in the back. You see instantly they're establishing oxygen. It's that quick, less than 15 seconds. He's already the gurney's moving. He's on his way to
What do you got?
That's crazy. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Does
Alright.
anybody want to?
Turn all lights on.
My interactive.
You might as well up there also. You can kind of leave them all on. Turn them all on.
Here.
Turn all lights on.
Anybody want to come put the pack on? Let you go on air.
Oh, yeah. Why not?
Yeah,
Let's
come on.
do it.
We can DJ both do it.
Where's me?
What? No problem. We got 2 packs of
Meet a girl.
Not a Hey, this is
Let's go.
2019. Jacob, you pull those straps out. You got
The shotguns, then you
And then you're gonna put this one. As soon as you're starting, you just kind of take a deep breath. So as you're serving it, you feel it kind of click. Turn it. There you go. And then just turn it until it clicks.
Darth Vader.
Feel like kind of right. Deep breath. Hold it.
It's gonna get really tight because
Anybody else want to come up?
Yeah, I want
she's sealed or Bender's gonna. I don't know. On the side.
I'm afraid of machines.
Yeah, well.
I can't touch machines.
Okay, put your hand over like on top of it, and then breathe out. Like really hard. Do you feel any air? Where?
Just while I've got the pack charged, I want to show you guys something. He's getting masked up. There's something in here called a pass device. And if you sit still for more than 20 seconds, it'll go into just like that, it'll go into pre-alarm. So basically what that's detecting, if you have a downed firefighter in the building, and that firefighter is motionless or is trapped somewhere, that pass alarm will sense that the firefighter is not moving. And it'll start going off, it'll go to pre-alarm, it'll get significantly louder, it'll keep going for every 6 seconds. I won't let it go to full alarm.
Please.
There's a button on the iPad, right to full alarm.
And then you're just free
I
throwing,
wouldn't do
okay?
it.
Why do it?
No, it's loud.
Matt, I dare you not. I want to
That's
dance.
what you
I hope so. Because then it's gonna come.
Turn it clockwise. Doing workouts in these seems cool. It sucks. Running upstairs with like 50 pounds of hose on each shoulder until your pack runs out of air, and then when your pack runs out of air, you gotta like hold your breath for 30 seconds. It's terrifying. So, good.
I'm not gonna be.
Feels like wearing a backpack. Does anybody else want to come up and try it?
Let's have somebody put on all the gear.
Oh, yeah.
Can they-
So I did like 2.5 hours of forcible entry training this morning in all my gear, so.
Probably won't do that then.
Smelly? Yeah.
How quickly can you hold it on?
Sarah, you should put it
on?
Yeah.
Fast.
So I don't learn all that.
Yeah, dude, do it as fast as you
Give it a try. I'm a little rusty.
Tell you guys race.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun.
Oh, putting it on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so slow on PPE.
You legally can't drive with this tank. Hey, quiet. DOT certificate is all set up. Back with skip. Got it.
That's your air saver right here. Because
Oh,
that gets
no.
turned off,
Oh,
you
no,
just have
it's
constant
leaking
airflow
out.
going through.
It's bettering our air quality. Oh no.
I feel more weight.
We shot Matt.
We got things beeping and buzzing.
Turn it
They're
off.
turning off.
I haven't done this in a couple months, so.
Me either.
No excuses.
I did a SCP.
We bit rusty.
No excuses.
Let's go.
It would have been just it would have been up in flame right now.
Yeah, let's start with my confidence. Are we racing or what?
Yeah, wait.
Ready to get smoked?
Yeah,
Jared, I have a question.
Yeah.
When you get a call, like what's like the requirement to like get out of the station? Like how fast do you need to be?
It's a gray area. I mean, if you take
Depends on the call.
10 minutes to get out of the station, you can get in trouble with your.
So there's no like they must be out by like 3 minutes.
No. It's more of like respect points. You can be up and out at like 3 a.m. fully donned PPE and strapping into your pack. Then that's like, damn, that guy's good.
While she's doing that, grab her shoes.
my shoes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're real thick.
Got me 3000s.
They're beast modes there.
But what?
They have steel-toed boots, so like if something were to fall on your foot, it prevents it from crushing your foot. So they're really
Steel.
heavy.
Steel sole as well. So the entire bottom has a plate of steel in it.
Right.
No, I just
Press.
do structural PPE.
Wait, I need to get something.
My best time in academy was 28 seconds.
Are we not doing CD?
No, it's just you. Those smoke. I suck at SCBA. I'm really good at this stuff.
Yeah, I know. You're like
That's what
fast,
you should
you're
do.
fast. I'm not fast.
Hey, we better organize the whole thing or what?
It was just a bend all the way down.
Alright. Haven't done this in a while.
Wait, that's
Damn, shoot.
Can we cheat anymore? All right, we good?
When you
Wait.
it ends when you clap. By the way, that's when you're done.
He's gonna beat me. But it's okay.
Nice.
3, 2, 1, go.
Oh no!
All through that.
It's a Velcro. It's old and broken.
Oh no.
Oh, no. We got a lot of oh no's going on.
I don't think that's like firefighters.
Oh no.
Let's go, okay.
You got it, Kira. You're right there. Finish.
This doesn't. Usually you'd be docked for this, but mine is old and doesn't stick. These are hand-me-downs of hand-me-downs. So.
My glove is so tight.
How many years do you have to be?
You just want to see me in full.
Jared.
Nice job, Kira.
It really smells
How many years do you have to do the training before you can become an actual firefighter?
Well,
Well, it
that's if you
depends.
go to the academy.
Yeah. If you want to get hired by like city,
Then you got the
like something like relatively prestigious, or you just want to do like seasonal Cal Fire. Seasonal Cal Fire usually has like a 4-week academy, and then you're good to go. A lot of agencies are now requiring that firefighters staff there are EMTs at least. So you have to get your EMT, and you have to go through basic academy. And then usually most departments will host their own academy you have to go through.
Oh, the toss. That's nice.
Me too. That'd be so sick. Until you're actually inside of the fire. My dad was a volunteer fireman in college. Yeah, there was an actual fire. He was like, so much adrenaline. So after a fire, you have to have people stay like at the house or wherever the fire is in case it goes up again.
So being in a structure fire where you potentially have victims,
It's
having to yell through this is really hard. So if you know, fire cracking, you have,
Yell as loud as
you gotta do that.
Wait, be as loud as you can. Yeah, I want to hear it.
I'm gonna do full alarm for like half a second.
Wait.
That's not what I meant.
Shut up.
You do it.
Full alarm, full alarm, full alarm.
No.
Hey, what if
Can
I
you
go
talk?
outside and do it?
That's good. That's good.
What level is
What if I
that?
go outside
No.
and do it?
No, because then it disturbs the other classes even more.
They might think something's wrong.
Hey, it's not disturbing, it's learning.
Yeah, come on.
That was well done. Thank you guys. That's pretty cool.
Does anybody else want to try the pack?
Come on, Tiger, give it a shot.
You want to be?
You want to put this on? Firefighter on?
I do.
It's pretty freaking dope.
Do you guys want to do city or do you actually like forest fires?
I want to do city.
City.
Busier.
Oh, yeah.
City's busier.
Much busier.
Anybody else? Go. 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 You don't have a choice. Go. No, you don't. Go.
Yeah, we did it. Thank you for your service, California.
That's too big.
That's why anybody else out there.
Yeah, dude, if someone will put all this on.
How much does it weigh altogether?
I kind of want to put a 75. Go, Jackson, go.
Like 70 pounds. I was like, we got like so much we got all this on, and then we climbed the ladder, plus the other ladder. We got hauled out to the hot window. Like, the weight just adds up, especially like when you're throwing like a 72-pound ladder on top of you with all this on.
Give Martinez the rope. Give him the hose.
Here you go, buddy. Let's give him let's give him some tools. Make sure.
Where's the new one? I think it's called the new one.
Make sure we got that.
Just keep throwing stuff on him.
Break his back.
So you got oxygen, you're fine.
I'm waiting for Be careful, you have metal in your arm.
Shake. Shake.
Nobody else wants to try the air. Come on, Jack. Come on, dude.
Come on, go.
Go, Bryce.
Go.
Bryce, come on, brother.
Go.
Yeah.
I got you pushing.
Andrew, shake.
Good job. Good luck for you, Bryce.
Yeah.
Like Bane from Batman.
Oh yeah.
Martinez, move. Andrew.
So these are the speakers down here.
I never did basketball. I was always
I want to hear full one.
I think you say that, but I don't think you actually do.
And then like mine. Okay. Oh no, we have like a ton of guys. Okay. I'll send you this.
Just provides stop exhaling. Suck in. It'll just push air.